Hello, this is Will Schlecht from IronCrow AI, and today I'm going to be giving a short introduction to figure drafting using the Draft tab of the LLM Sandbox. So this works in the same way as drafting patent applications or other types of documents. It's just a different type of document that you'll need to select. And in the same way that previous drafting workflows have gone, once you select your document type, you can upload content files and style files. So content files are those which will actually have technical substance, which should be incorporated into what you draft, whereas style is going to be an example of the format, structure, and in the case of figures especially, kind of the spatial arrangement of figures that you would want to draft. So with that selected, it's really just as simple as prompting this tab to draft something that you want to see in your application. So in this case, we are not going to have any style or content selected. We're just going to ask it to draft a diagram of a multi-layered perceptron and to use free text to label each layer. So we'll run that. And so in order to get this to work, in order to build the figure drafting functionality, figures are quite a bit different than just a simple text output. And so the workflow that we thought works best is if you can see a preview of the figure generated as an image, but you can also download the figure that's generated. So the figures that we generate are Visio files. They're VSDX, the OpenXML version of Visio, because that's easier to programmatically generate. And so once it generates a figure, you'll be able to see an image of the figure it's generated, and you'll be able to download the Visio. So you can edit it, you can move around shapes. And I think that's particularly necessary because as much as we've worked to make this tool very, very good at drafting figures, there's always going to be some tweaks or changes you might want to make, and having editable versions of the figures is very important. So once it's drafted the figure, it will produce an image like this. You'll be able to see it. It's about to scale. So this is about the scale that it's going to be in the Visio diagram. And you can see we've got a kind of a classic multi-layer perceptron diagram with little nodes being represented by circles. Each of those circles has a reference number, and all the reference numbers are correctly positioned. And each of the layers has a little text description. So if we're okay with this figure, we can download it, or we can ask for an update. So for example, maybe I don't want two hidden layers, just one. So we'll ask it to remove one of the hidden layers and make that update. Another thing that we've done to try to make this more efficient, because drafting figures is particularly difficult, it's particularly computationally intensive, we allow you to make updates through deltas instead of recreating the entire figure. So when it updates this figure with my request, it might need to redraft the entire thing because the request that I just made is pretty large, but it can also just give the delta that we want. So you can see it was able to draft a lot faster in this case because it's removed one of the layers. So we might want then to rearrange this, and we can either make another request to do so, or we can just download the figure and do it ourselves. But that is a simple example of how to make a figure with the drafting tab. And I'll do one other thing really quick, which is we've got a patent document here. So this has some claims in it, and we can ask the drafting tab to create a flowchart based off of the claims. And each of these tabs can work together in different ways. There's really so many different ways that you can go about drafting a figure. You can have the interrogation tab look at your disclosure documents, plan what figures you should create, even describe the spatial arrangements of those figures, so you don't have to go into detail about how they should be arranged yourself, and then copy that information into the drafting tab, and then have the drafting tab create the actual figure. Or in this case, you can take claims and you can just kind of transcribe those into a flowchart. And that is a very powerful workflow. So for example, you could start drafting claims in the drafting tab and then immediately convert those claims into figures, which you could then incorporate into your application draft. You can also go in the opposite direction. You could have figures which you upload and put that into the content and then kind of convert those figures into claims, or different workflows that you can imagine. So here we have a flowchart, and that looks pretty good. It's a simple flowchart. It doesn't have any decision points. But this tool has been, specifically built to format these figures correctly for patent applications. So the size will fit within the margins that are required by the USPTO for US patent application drawings. And the reference numbers will also conform, as will the text size. So that's a very short introduction. I hope that you find this tool useful. I know that it is, it's able to save a ton of time. And, you can, because these tools, they have access to the actual information of the figure. So now that it's in this chat, I can save this conversation, just call this test 1, save it. And saving the conversation will also save the images, the figures that we've generated. So then we can load this in a different tab, and voila, we've got the figures here. So we could now work with these in a different way, maybe for prosecution. Maybe we want this tool to have a deeper understanding of our figures, because now we've got an office action and we want to look back at these figures. So instead of uploading the figure to this interrogation tab, you could actually just have saved the figures that you drafted from the draft tab in a conversation and load them directly. This is also helpful if you want to make some modifications to a figure. You can query the interrogation tab. So suggest some ways to improve the layout of the above figure. I don't think that really applies in this case because this is an incredibly simple figure. So there's not really any layout improvements that can be done, but you can get the sense that you would be able to work with figures in both the interrogation tab and the drafting tab. So it talks about spacing, alignment, etc. So that short introduction, I'll go into more detail about some of the best practices for how to draft applications in an upcoming video. But for now, I hope you can try this and save yourself some time. All right. Thank you very much, and talk to you again later.